ACT.
Yeah.
I'm about to start.
Okay.
All right. I can't help myself. I couldn't help it, Johnny. All right. Get your giggles out. Get your giggles out. All right. So get it going.
I want all of this in the show. All of this. All of this to be included.
We're not doing it. Okay, so
woke up this morning, sun kissed my face. Grab my coffee, life's a fast-paced race. I know. I put on my shoes, but no stops or waves. Headed out the door, no stress, no stress. I'm feeling good now, but my groove is sick. A brand new day, just let begin. Easy Monday motivation. All of who knows what to do. Feels good. Don't try to slow it down. We keep moving to the sound. Easy Monday motivation. In the rhythm, it's deep in my soul. Fantastic energy got me in control. Oh, hear the beat drop, you know we won't stop. Trust the process, climb me to the top, the top. We're in the air, so I need some more. Each step forward, easy Monday motivation. We touch new ground, positive. My body that's on one joy, right? Feel deep, line. Easy Monday motivation. We are all of you. So good, when it feels good. No time to slow it down. We keep moving to the sound. Easy Monday motivation.
everybody, welcome to Easy Monday Motivation. You know, the home of where you get it going on. I am always here in the chair, wishing I had a beer with my people.
Me too.
Wow. Well, I got to tickle my throat, son. It's crazy. My homeboy CT and Johnny, my liege. I mean, I'm going to turn over y'all. How y'all doing? I need some water. What's going on?
You got to turn it over to us because you can't.
For real. I'm sorry. It got really choky.
He said he couldn't have a beer and it got choked up. Like, it just made me stop the things.
He did. What's going on,
did.
y'all?
Hey, look, I put my beer in the refrigerator or whatever. I said, oh, yeah, I'm going to get myself set up or whatever. Left the mug over there. Here we come to record. I'm like, oh, can I go get? I guess I can't do it. So, all right, man, how y'all doing? Another week, we back at it. We are actually creeping out of October, using the word creeping specifically because Johnny, your favorite Halloween is coming up, and we want to make sure that, you know, we pay homage to some of our favorite time. And I know this is one of your favorite times of the year. So I want to come to you and check on you first. How you doing, Johnny?
I am doing so good. Things are going great. Been busy lately. Things are happening. So before the show, we were just saying how you and I got to work together this week, which was really cool. And what's so funny is when we work together, like it's always all good. But then it's always those moments where like, I know he knows exactly what I'm thinking. And it was like we were sitting a couple seats, you know, away from each other. And I just looked down and he was already looking at me. Like it was just those little moments that I'm so glad we weren't sitting next to each other because it would have been all bad. It would have been all bad. But it was good.
Johnny, some places they call that a creeper. But keep going, please.
Well, he was looking because some funny things were happening in this moment. So We had to make eye contact just so we know exactly what each other was thinking. But things are good. And Ace has been at the trainer for 2 weeks, y'all. And
Whoa.
yesterday was the first time I saw him, and he's doing so good. I mean, he's still
Oh
crazy,
man.
but he's doing so good. So I'm
So
excited.
Ace is out there getting himself straightened out so he can be a good boy at home. That sounds
That's
wonderful.
right. And I was
I
trying to
will.
do my best behavior so that the trainer wouldn't say, "Oh, this is all your fault."
Yeah, this is you.
So I
Yeah.
was being really cool. I was being cool.
Yeah. So maybe next time you go back and expose some of those bad behaviors that the trainer's not aware of, so he can train against them, because that may help Ace, because that doesn't help him if you're not being honest with the trainer. But we're gonna help Ace. Shout out to Ace for holding it down. Good job. Good luck in puppy school. We know you're gonna make it. If she didn't love you, Ace, you would not be in puppy school. You would have been kicked out by now. But
That's right.
she's maxed out all of her patience. It was like, I'm had to give you somebody else, a professional.
Oh yeah,
That's how you know. Yeah, that's how you know that somebody
Yeah,
love you. Like, I'm gonna hand you over to a professional. Right?
Education is important in the Easterling household, though. So,
hey, ain't that what we be saying? It's very important in the Easterling household.
But I just think it's very telling, though, because I was just thinking about that moment. I'm like, yeah, that is a true statement for a parent. Like, you know, you love something or somebody if you hand them over to a professional, especially in our culture, right? Because like it took a long time for somebody to be like, all right, I'm gonna take you to the doctor, or yeah, you should go get therapy, right? And like, I gotta love you to actually want you to see a professional. Otherwise, throw a band-aid on it. You bang your head. Are you all right? Just don't fall asleep too fast. That way we know you're not dying. Okay, it's like stuff like that. We had some really bad remedies to avoid getting professional help. But nowadays, if your parents or anybody in your life is willing to get a professional to help you, I'm talking about even on these podcasts, if they willing to get a professional to come on and talk to you, that means they love you. Okay, I just wanted to throw that 30 cents in there. Yeah. CT, I want to come over and check with you.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? It's so good to be back with you. I am one more trip left in this journey for me. I'm in town this week, which is amazing, but I gotta tell y'all, right? So there are these things that Melanie and I will do, these adventures, and those who are closest to us know that these are Melanie specials. And a Melanie special this last weekend is that we'll get in a car and we will drive or we will go somewhere where traditionally the things that we do aren't always urban in nature. And so when this last weekend we drove up to a place called Coshocton, and they have, you need to step in.
I'm typically not the person to ask for a definition because I know what most words mean.
Yeah.
Or you doing things that are not urban in nature.
Yeah.
I just want. I just was
want
an example. No. I just wanted an example.
And we gonna know when he tell us what they was doing.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. The what I'm about to tell you will answer the question.
I'm going for it. I'm with you.
So what had happened was, so we got in the car and we went up north to this place called Coshocton, and we were going to do this little driving tour, right? That takes you all up over through Northeast Ohio. Amazing, because the colors and the trees are turning, etc. And what this particular tour was highlighting was one of the most amazing industries in our country, and that's called farming. And what we ended up being able to do was, let's just say in the first stop, we got to see some sheep, and we got to see some sheep being sheared. That was an adventure. And then we moved to another location where we saw some cows. And no, the cows weren't mooing. The cows were standing there, and one of them, three of them, four of them, mouth was just saliving, like it was just, and it almost made me stop and not want to eat meat anymore because of that adventure. And then at the same spot we went and saw, I promise you, I saw oh boy donkey from the movie Shrek. There was this donkey, and the way he looked at you looked just like, if I had a picture I would show it to you, but I was so surprised at how he was looking at me. I was talking to him. I was like, do you need to say something? Do you need help? Like, use real words. And he didn't. And then so Melanie started rubbing his head. And I was like, do you have hand sanitizer? And she was like, I don't. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? And then we moved to the next one. And it was just this really amazing adventure. But what you should understand is that Melanie, while she loves the outdoors, she's allergic to all the things in the outdoors. And when you get down to like bugs, doesn't work, people. We got to the one spot, and you know when you've gone to a non-urban area, when you enter a location and everyone turns and looks at the urban people standing there, almost as to say, hi, not used to seeing you here. And we had one of those experiences. And
Yeah.
to the show, we had the right to be there. It was just a little bit uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
then we were like, okay, maybe we should go ahead and maneuver on to go do the next thing. And when I tell you it was a swarm of bees, ladybugs, flies, all things outdoors. And let me tell you, and I don't know if she's going to pull up on the chat at any point in time in this, but
Excuse me.
let me tell you, she was like, let's go. Let's go. So when I tell y'all we have some of the most amazing times together, and when Mel just has a moment, I'm telling y'all, Mel she takes us to places where, as they say, I think it was Star Trek, where no man has come before. So that is an update on some of my weekend. But
That's
I'm telling
interesting.
y'all have
That
not
is very
Uh,
interesting.
Thompson. I'm telling you,
So
Mel is
Very
a
interesting.
adventurist. Yes.
Yes.
all right. That's not, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna go ahead and say that's not. I mean, you know, there's a lot of outdoorsy types people, and I get it. Like, you know, y'all do your thing, go adventure, you know, go see the world. You want to make sure you don't limit yourself on experiences. So that does definitely sound fun. Going to places
No,
that
don't do that.
are
Don't do that.
going
Don't do that.
going
Don't
places,
don't just
going
passively pass over.
places.
That's what he did. That's
No,
what he
that's
did.
not you just know that's not what we
So
do on this pod.
anyway,
That is not what we do.
that's exactly what he did. This is one of those moments where you know what each other is thinking in that
Yeah,
moment.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
this
that
is
was
it.
fun. My
Yeah,
God.
I'm not. I'm gonna help you here as best as I can. You see, I transitioned past it. Shout out to Mel.
Shout out to Mel.
Yeah, shout out to Mel
Shout out
for
to
taking
Mel.
you through hell. I mean, taking you to the places that you would like to try to see. I didn't listen. If anybody ever think about taking me anywhere and you don't really like understand my comfort levels, you may find out just how uncomfortable I can make you for making me uncomfortable. And I don't know if those two levels of uncomfortability should be something that would coexist. So I try my best. I try my best to never put myself in uncomfortable places. That would make other people uncomfortable because they wanted me there in that uncomfortable place. Like, you do know that I don't like bugs, right? Yes. You asked me to come where bugs were, right? So what did you think was going to happen? So now I just want you to know. Let me. Is that your Louis Vuitton purse? Yes. Let me use it as a fly swatter. I'm using it as a fly swatter. I'm sorry. Are you feel disrespected? I feel disrespected. I'm just playing. I feel a little extra, but at the same time, I know it would make you very uncomfortable if you had dead bugs on your Louis Vuitton. You made me uncomfortable by asking me to come somewhere I typically wouldn't go. But CT, you are a soldier and you are down for this because the fact that you got in a car and drove somewhere called Coshocton and you left shocked, just proof that you should have known, man. You should have known.
It's a beautiful area. Like this, like to be clear, I want to clown the place too much, right? It was just an experience. And then when we went down to the festival, it was there. Like that was a cool time. Like that was what was had some good food, had some good drinks. So no, it was solid. But I figure I had to tell. I had to tell about our experience.
Hey, on everything, Johnny, on everything. What he really described was the movie Poetic Justice.
Take a little trip on the
take a little trip on the mail truck, and they ended up at a festival or whatever. You know what I'm saying? After they did some reunion. Yeah, exactly. Some non-urban stuff. That's poetic justice. That's exactly what happened. I'm happy that y'all
Story
got
of
to
our
reenact
lives.
that movie. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Yes.
happy y'all
That's
got to
dope.
reenact
That's
that
dope.
movie. That's beautiful. What we
Oh,
call it?
shoot.
Poetic. Nah. I'll think on it. We're gonna have to name a movie after all of y'all's adventures. It's like Love
Yeah.
Actually, but then we're gonna like tag it on the CTML version of every single
Mhm.
love movie that we could think of. So when y'all get a
I like that
chance, like
idea.
let us know what type of adventures I had in the past, and we could try to associate a movie that goes with the scenario that y'all
I like
created.
that.
It'd be fun.
Chris and Mel Adventures. I got you. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds fun. I like that. I like that. I mean, because we got some special guests today that are probably going to be having their own adventures. So I guess it's a KCCK Chris and Chris adventure, whatever they're gonna call it. But it's gonna be a KNC production out here making it happen too. So I can imagine they're gonna be doing the same thing. So set the groundwork.
Yes,
Now
sir.
for me, he has been pretty busy. It's the end of the year. You know, a lot of things have changed for me. I manage people now. I got a lot of stuff going on. Scotch E is doing this thing. So I'm having a lot of fun. That's really what I'll say. I'm rocking at home. I got a trip set up for the family. You know, at the end of the year, got some vacation coming. The kids are doing pretty good. So I feel like everything's rocking. The fish tank is on crystal again. I went in on the fish tank on everything. I had to go over there and rub and pour the whole baby down. I took it down to about a 20% fill. Had to, top her back off, scrubbed all top, new filter, everything. I switched out the ornaments. We back to the reverse waterfall. Got the little sunken ship in there with the mountain in there. I think the fish are very happy. So
Oh,
yeah, laying out. And then Lemmy's doing real good. Like I planted a bunch of other lemon seeds around Lemmy to see if they could like get that whole connective growth thing, you know what I'm saying? And they're actually doing real good. So they got a nice little ecosystem building over there. Lemmy is back on the mend. I'm very happy to report that Lemmy Von Limoni is back alive. Because at first we thought he was dead, y'all. We thought he was dying out,
I know
but
it
he
got
is
shaky
back.
there for a minute.
Yeah, man. My God.
Is it because there are others who are helping to care for the fish or Lemmy? Or is it just you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the only one to take care of my stuff.
Okay, just asking, because last week you provided some insight for us, and I didn't know if there was any support that was being brought to Lemmy or the fish, relationally speaking.
No, none at all.
Just asking. I'm only asking what the EMM family may want to know, but yeah. We'll go by.
So you want to know if anybody's helping with the fish in the lemon tree? That's the question. No,
or is someone helping you so that you can take care of the fish in the lemon tree?
That's a good question. Is somebody helping me so I can take care of the lemon tree? I would say yes. Yes, there are people who are helping me so I can take care of the fish in the lemon tree. There are quite a few people. Like you guys are included in that as well because you give me the clarity and the focus of mind to make sure that I stay on top of the things I'm responsible and accountable for, such as the lives that I choose to be responsible for, such as my fish in my lemon tree. So thank you, CT. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into exactly what we here for because I shut it down. We're not playing around. We have been having these generational conversations about rights because we want to get prepared for what we know is coming up is the election, as well as just having conversations about knowing what our rights are, understanding how we know what our rights are, then being able to look back on what rights we were allotted and what rights we fought for, who fought for what and what mattered, as well as how rights can be flippant, right? Because like you can go from something being right, then all of a sudden it goes to being wrong. Now, don't forget, AOC is always going to tell you about your wrongs. But CT, I want to come back to you, and I want you to continue today's conversation, but before we jump all the way into the conversation, I do want to make sure that you have an opportunity to bring on our special guest.
Thank you, E. Listen, it's amazing to see y'all again. We got another amazing conversation to have with all of our Easy Monday motivationers. And this week, listen, I will tell you that while it was an idea, some of this discussion was inspired by Miss Melanie suggesting that we are not generationally inclusive enough on our pod. And so what we've got to make sure that we do is introduce another generation. Now we're going to talk generationally here in just a second because E brought something up behind the scenes and I want to make sure that we discuss in the conversation, but we got to bring our guests on. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of the pod, I know these two quite well. One of them more or longer than the other, but I love them just the same. They are in their 20s and they are recently married. And Cam, will you do me a favor? Will you play this clip for me before I introduce these two?
Family and friends, people watching from all over the world. It is with Jesus' joy that I present for the first time Mr. and Mrs. Christian and Kristen of
If you would, welcome to the program, Christian and Kristen Thompson. Let's go, family.
Let's go.
What's up, people?
Yes.
Hey,
y'all.
How
y'all doing?
We good.
Good. So
We're
good to see you guys.
Yeah, that video was a nice little reminder, nice little intro. I appreciate it.
That was so good to see.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that's so
Got
cool.
you.
Yeah, that was a beautiful day. You know, I don't want to take you guys back to that day, but if you could frame up that day in one word, a piece, because I'll let you have one word a piece, and it's always fun to do that. And what would you describe that day as?
The first thing that's coming to my mind is fast. It was too fast.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm being honest. And I think
Yeah,
we knew that going into it and even tried to be intentional about being present throughout the entire day, but it still felt like it went way too fast.
yeah.
I get that.
Okay.
I'd say special.
Yeah.
Just the word that comes to mind because of just all the family that we brought together. The process took about probably 2 years to probably 2.5 years to get it all together with family and Chris, my wife, she did a great job of getting everything set up and getting us all orchestrated as well. So it was, I just say special. It was a special moment.
Yeah.
Everybody that was there, especially for us too, and the love that we just felt in that moment.
Yes. It was good to have everybody on the speech with us.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of surreal, honestly.
Nice.
I love that.
Now, and listen, I think it's important to be able to maybe pull the thread on the idea that you all did something that not everybody gets the right to do or has access to do. Like our month has really been dedicated to understanding what rights are. And last week we had a spirited discussion around this historical significance of rights. And not everybody had the same rights, even though you were born into this country to say you had those rights. You didn't get them just because you were born. Somebody had to fight for those things. And so one might suggest that y'all's wedding, like who told y'all had the right to have a destination wedding, invite people to a location on the beach, spend money. That, tell me about that. How did y'all feel like y'all could go do that? Who told you had the right to do that? And how do you feel about your access and the privilege you have to do so?
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Yeah,
I think
ahead.
it's just to that point, that audience and fans. This is my pops that is in the left corner, I think, of the screen, whoever screen you are looking at. And so just a blessing of also her father as well, our families, our parents as well,
Yes.
my mom and her mother as well. And both of them coming together and just really blessing us with the opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah.
Because of just the financial bearing that comes with being in a wedding and just the expenses that all come together. We would have not been able to have the opportunity if it was not for the people that are also supporting us in the background.
Yes.
Like I said, like our parents.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. That was the first thing that popped in my head too, was our community. That is the only reason, and our parents more specifically are the only reason I think why we were able to have such the special day that we did. And I would even, just add on to the financial component. I think we had a lot of mental and emotional and spiritual support going through this process as well, because not only was it, a day or an event, it was, truly a transition into a new chapter of life. And that came with a lot of, changes mentally and spiritually that we knew that we were going to be stepping into. And we definitely had a lot of support going into that from our family, from our friends. And it was truly invaluable.
So it sounds like the answer is support is the thing that made them know that they had the right to have a destination wedding, and all of the people that came to stand next to you and to shoulder the burdens that you described were the reasons why you were able to have access to it. So that sounds like a pretty good answer. I like that.
Yeah, I have a question too here, just because I don't want to leave this topic here because this is on my mind. So last night, y'all, I was watching this documentary on Netflix called Sweet Bobby. Have y'all seen this? Crazy. Anyway, this chick, she gets catfished. Okay, she gets catfished, but she comes from South Asian descent. So it was so much pressure on her from her family to get married. Like her mom, even after, and if y'all watch it, you'll see like all the stuff she went through, and she made some really bad choices because of all this pressure that she felt. Even during the documentary, after all is said and done, her mom and dad is still like, yeah, when she's going to get married, like your clock is ticking, sis, what's happening? And I just thought that was so interesting because she lived a life that she probably wouldn't even want to get married, but because of the things that that's been ingrained in her and what she's been taught, that this is still her main focus, even everything she's been through. Now I don't know what you all have experienced growing up, but I could imagine that same pressure was not put upon you, right? And so just at this young age, I'm just curious, like what made you guys decide to say, yes, like this is it. We are committed. We're ready to do this thing.
Yes, that's such a good question. Honestly, I think a lot of things went into that in terms of what made us say yes to get married and to take this next step with each other. We've been together since we were in high school. So I was 15, he was 16. I've known the Thompson family since I was a child myself. I do look at them as like my second set of parents. I feel like they are a huge part, in addition to my parents, of in terms of, the person that I've grown into today. And I know that he can speak the same about my family as well. But yeah, I think it was the history, honestly. We've just been together for so long. He's my best friend. We rely on each other for everything. We've gone through so many milestones together. And this was another one of those things where it was like, I want to commit to you under God and really join covenant. We've kind of been doing life together, but like, let's take it up a notch, right? And like, truly like do this walk together, you know what I mean? And learn what that actually means, whether, we had a full understanding of what marriage looks like going into it or not. I think you learn it as you go. And, you guys, the married people, please correct me where I'm wrong, but but yeah, we felt confident enough, I would say, in each other to take that step together and to learn together on this journey or on this path. But yeah, would you add anything?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, you said it perfectly, honestly.
I love that.
I think it was just really a more commitment to God, and really to what God holds love as, and what biblically what it stands hold, and the commitment also not to each other, but also firstly to Him.
Yeah.
And also that word commitment, just the commitment and the drive each and every day to know that He is the head. We're praying together every night, every morning. Creating those habits that I'm also have the relationship with Him, but she also has a relationship, and we're coming together as our three-strand cord, and we're making it work each and every day and just growing. So
learning from each other along the way as well.
Yeah, I love that. I just think it was important to call that out because, as we keep talking about these generational conversations and tradition and all these things we believe, sometimes we're getting further and further away from exactly what you all were talking about. So I think it's important to sometimes recognize that even in the younger generation, there are definitely people who still believe in that tradition. And so, just thanks for sharing that. That was dope.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah, it's in the spirit of the discussion, right? Because there is a generational conversation that is being had where there are folks who are like, I don't want to get married. There are people who are in your generation who are like, well, what my parents were, or what we understand marriage to be, isn't something that I want to participate in. And yet some of that comes from the disappointments and the traumas and the difficulties that were never talked about by the generation that came before y'all. And some of it was because we were trying to protect y'all from something. And so when you think about your generation, the friends that you have, when you guys are having conversation about why you all got married, or people are coming to y'all and saying, well, you know what I'm saying, I'm thinking about it, I'm not thinking about it, from your generational perspective, because that's really what this discussion is about today, the perspective you guys have. Since we're on marriage, you might as well stay there. And Johnny and E, I want you guys to have some input on this conversation, this part of the discussion as well. But like, how are you talking to your friends about this concept and this perspective on marriage generationally now?
That's a great question.
Yeah, no, that's great. I would speak. How do I say this? I would say to make sure that the person, if they're single, if they're in a relationship, first making sure that God is the head of it, and that everything runs through Him and the decisions that you're going to be able to make. Because it's like this thing called life that we're living in the little span of time that we've been blessed with. It's still life, and it's still the ups and downs and ebbs and flows of things that really you have no control over.
Yeah.
So I typically, to some of the guys, the fellas that I have that are maybe single, or friends that I've had for a long time, I just invest in them, or just saying that God, make sure you invest in God and make sure that is your headspace first, and just focus on you, whatever that means, or wherever the pathway that you're going towards, and the rest kind of flows with that. If you're able, like where we were able to do, is make a deeper connection with and commitment to each other to say we're going to stick through these different trials, these different levels of just growth in life, and growing from that together. But it definitely is it just comes with it's pros and cons.
Yeah.
That's all I would say to people is like, it just comes with whatever perspective or whatever life you're living from your perspective. It's just balancing out that and figuring out that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think I'm saying the same thing to my girlfriends too, that are, looking to get married or thinking about it and are kind of on the fence a little bit. I think we get in our heads a lot as a generation in terms of like, oh, I have to have this together and that together. Or I can take this next step. And like, I think in reality, it's not so black and white. It's not so perfect. And I think a lot of what we've learned as well in our relationship is that like, you kind of have to learn to live in this gray and uncomfortability and this sort of like unknown. But also, to Chris's point, knowing that you're doing it with someone who is just as committed to, I guess, the goal as you are, right? Like it's not always going to be so perfect. It's like any relationship, it's going to have its trials, and it's just learning, who is worth doing that with, right? And who's going to stick through it with you. And again, who's committed to the same goal that you are. And also knowing that you don't, and I think it's like giving ourselves the grace too, and knowing that like we don't have to have every single thing from A to Z figured out. Like it's okay if I'm only A to G right now, and I can figure out H to M with my partner, and then we figure out the rest together, right? So I don't know. That's a lot of what I'm hearing. It's just I think we get in our heads.
Oh, that's good, Johnny. How about you? Like I know for us, we are the same generation. We'll talk about
we are.
Johnny, when you start thinking about like what it was for you in the conversation generationally for you around even just marriage, what was the headset in your time?
Yeah, as I was listening to them talk, I think still from my generation, it was still very much you graduated high school, you decided either you went to work or you went to college, whatever, and then you got married. Like that was what you were supposed to do, get married and have kids. And thinking about conversations my mother and I had, my mom probably didn't push that as much as I maybe think that she did or whatever, but that's what I saw growing up. Is like a lot of people got married to people right there in the city that they grew up in, and they had kids, and that's what you did. So I still had that mindset a little bit. And so I've said this plenty of times before, Terry knows it too, that for me, I probably would have waited. I would have waited. I am really happy. We have a great relationship, but if looking back on it, I definitely would have waited. But that's just my personal experience. And then I was watching this video the other day of this lady. I don't even know who it was, but she was like, I love being married to my partner. Like, I think he's so dope. Our relationship is dope. He's made me love myself more. I've elevated because I'm with him. So I could not agree with her more. I identified with that so much. So as much as I like kind of look back on and say like, oh, I would have waited and done these things, whatever. I'm so much better that I married him. I'm a better person. I'm a better human. Like, I'm doing so many awesome things. And it's really because of this relationship that we share between each other. So I don't know.
And you have a different journey than the rest of us. Insight, AOC.
I would say that growing up, marriage was a goal, right? It's something that you strive to do, understanding the covenant and the commitment to God, and that, you're looking for a partnership and a relationship that you would be fostering to build legacy, right? Like, legacy was the biggest part of marriage. That was kind of expressed to me, to be like, look at what you'll be, go out and learn a bunch of things, and whatever you learn, make sure you learn and instill in your kids, and make sure that they learn it double so that they can be better than you were, so that you build a legacy to carry forward. That was really what we were taught that marriage was. And, I did get married kind of early. I got married in my 20s too. I was married for about 16 and a half years or so. And then, it ended. So now, being on the other side of marriage, looking back to say, do I think what I thought back then was right? I do think it was, but I was ill prepared and misinformed on certain perspectives of how to set boundaries in marriage and relationships, because I was too young to really know how to do it. It was more like the image of a husband, the image of a man was something that you work towards, versus really knowing what it was. Because yes, I had a father, yes, I had uncles and all of these people who showed me what it looked like, but there was a lot of that bravado, male bravado that you would see. It wasn't the truth of how to deal with the relationship. It was the bravado of a relationship. So, you can't fix your problems in relationship with your cockiness. You know what I'm saying? It don't work. You know what I mean? But that's what you would learn from, thinking that your uncles and your these people are the man. You know what I'm saying? Not how to be men, but they are the man. So that was more of what we learned in our generation, how to be the man. And then as I grew up in my own light, in some ways, I was the man. So I was doing the things that I thought I was supposed to do, but I wasn't the best husband. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know what it was to be a full-fledged man. And I had to grow into a lot of the spaces to be the right type of husband that my wife needed. And she needed to grow in certain areas too. So I'm happy to hear y'all say that you guys are choosing to grow together in these spaces as you grow through these sections, because that's really what it was. I look back and know that I had to grow and this is no shot against ladies at all, but as a man, I had to grow 100 times than what she had to, because I had to provide 100 times than what I expected from her. You know what I mean? If my job was to help curate a life for this woman and the kids that I'm going to, sire with her, then I got to be 80% up. And I was working 3 jobs. I was doing all types of stuff to make sure that we was good, but it never panned out for me to ever really understand the reciprocity and the respect and the admiration and the appreciation you're supposed to get for that type of stuff as a husband. So, and she didn't know how to do it. So like, we both was these kids that didn't know how to do the things that was, required to make a marriage work. Like, hey, I'm a husband, I need respect. Well, I'm a wife, I need love. Well, the way you talk to me don't make me feel love, and the way you treat me don't make me feel respected. Well, we kids, so we didn't really know what we was doing. So it took for me to go through a lot of that stuff to learn on the other end of it now. Like, would I still recommend marriage? Yeah, of course, because I believe in the covenant of marriage. I believe in what it really represents. I believe in what it creates in a community, right? Because it's not like when I get married to my wife that we stop connecting to the rest of the world. And then the things that she's interested in, the things that I believe in, start to multiply, because I would be pouring into something and my wife would be multiplying those things for me. Like, hey, I want to go out and go help children with reading, and she would be helping me write books. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it would be, I understand that that's the premise of it, so that a man can be on his purpose and he can have that essential helper, that person who is crafted and ready to deal with all of the heaviness of being a leader, of being the men in people's lives, and needing that soft space. Because I still think this is important. Do I know what it looks like today? It's totally different. So I'm very proud of you guys to take the steps that you have to even get married, because I can imagine dating today. Look, I'll tell you from my own perspective, dating before I was married in my 20s to dating after I was married. Listen, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, to be like, oh yeah, go out there into the dating pool. Like, no, it's not a dating pool. It's more of a, I'm gonna stop there. That's it.
I want to know. Yeah, that's dope. That's I love that explanation you gave though, E.
Yeah.
And it's like, the thing that I think is really cool is that no matter where we are or how we came to understand, and right now we're talking about marriage, right? How we began to understand what its value proposition is. There's some stuff we had to do without knowing how to do what it is that we had to do.
Yeah.
And I think it is Aristotle that says the things that you learn best to do, you learn by doing. And when you think about something as significant as marriage, or even just relationship generally, when you are testing and learning together, you do have to have a certain level of maturity, or you have to have some tools. And so I want to pivot our conversation, generationally speaking, to something we were covering last week that I want to hear from Chris and Krista on, is this concept of AI, right? As you all are pivoting and maneuvering in your lives, like, y'all have tools. Now, granted, matter of fact, I don't want to go to AI yet, because I was thinking about something with y'all. So y'all were in college during COVID, and y'all generation has something different running through y'all's veins because of how y'all had to learn through that pandemic. I think it is. I have a theory, but I want to hear from y'all. Like, how did it change you all? Do you think? How do you think it changed your generation in terms of how you learn, how you process, how you maneuver through the world because of what you had to do, not knowing that's what you had to do, but you were thrust into it? Like, how did you make it through that? Like, how did your generation push through?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I feel like you could kind of take it from like a couple different angles. I feel like there were some good things that came out of COVID generationally speaking, in terms of, I think it built a lot of resiliency when it comes to, still having to, I guess, get the job done or get work done, even in times of hardship. And when the mode of how you're doing that work completely changes as well. But then I think from another perspective, it kind of brought our generation a little bit more closed in. I don't know the best way to describe that, but I think it kind of pulled us in a lot to ourselves, that to an extent, I think, although we are productive in certain ways, I think it may have hurt us socially, if that makes sense, when it comes to building relationships and connecting with other people, whether it's at work or personally, and even with, I think, you can think of from like a family perspective as well. But yeah, so I don't know. I think you could go both ways with that. Yeah, what would you?
I wanted to make sure it's called that we regressed. We did socially. We regressed.
Yes.
We did.
Yes. Thank you so much.
No, I agree with your perspective as well. Preface my comment by saying we're not speaking for everybody.
Absolutely.
Also in the comments, we're not speaking. We're speaking from our perspective of where we came from, and what we've experienced. But I would say, like in my case personally, I didn't really like COVID, like with school and overall, like having to go to school and all the question marks that were around school at that time, and then having to transition over that to learning online. For me personally, it was quite an adjustment, because I didn't really think we needed to be in school when people were they were dying essentially, like through this sickness that was going on, that at the time no one really knew what was going on, and we were just kind of going with what was the information we had. So for me, it was was a focus out of, because I remember that time we were just coming off vacation to my spring break, and it was like, okay, there's another week, and then there's another week, and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks turned into a month, and it's like, okay, well, you're going back to school online, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was a lot of uncertainty during that time. But from the idea of, I do agree with you from the social aspect. I think it's a story that we can tell one day and say, hey, this is something we went through, I guess, as college students at that time. But from a social perspective, I would say it did create the ability to be more closed off, because everybody was just at home.
Mm-hmm.
And really just didn't have the ability to just go talk to somebody else other than the people that may have been or may have not have been in your home. So I think that is a big piece of just how, as technology, to your comment, Pops, how technology has just grown and continues to grow. I think to the opposite side of the coin, it kind of takes us even more deeper into a confined space a little bit, because of even how working at home and hybrid learning or hybrid spaces are now implemented into a lot of things. So
yeah, I was thinking that as you were talking to, like, as we were inside more and definitely like adjusted to this, environment, like where we were not in person with each other, I do think that we became more resourceful from a technology perspective. And I think that, like, I know AI was a thing before then, but I do think COVID kind of like even more, I guess, like projected it. Yeah, like it just kind of skyrocketed. Yeah. Because of COVID.
I agree with that.
I think my liver was my AI for COVID, because I don't know what happened. Listen on everything. Some told me to build a bar at home and they would come.
It makes sense.
I swear. And I did something. It was 2019, and I'm like, something's like, build a bar at home. I was like, okay. And I did. I built, instead of a dining room, I built a bar, and I built all this nice enclosed stuff to be like, I never have to leave my house. And then March came, and it was like, you ain't got to leave your house. I was like, thank you, Jesus.
Johnny, I go ahead. I want to look. I got all kinds of questions for the two of them, but I know I need to make sure that my co-hosts have some things they want to ask too. Johnny, go ahead, jump in.
Well, actually, I was just going to comment on the whole regression piece, because I have teenagers. Well, now they're 13 and 18. So they were younger then. And it was different for us because they didn't regress because they never had a chance to develop. That at the time that they were supposed to be developing relationships, making these connections with other people, they never had a chance to.
Yes.
And so I saw this crazy shift with my oldest, and then my youngest, she's already quiet as it is. And so that just like, I think that just made it even more so. Like, I have to like pull teeth to get things out of her. I'm like, so tell me what's going on. How are you feeling? And the moment she says anything, I'm all ears. And she just looks at me like, Mom, calm down. But she's so quiet and interacting with other people. She has a couple friends, and then that's who she sticks with. You know what I mean? So it's just interesting to hear that from you all, because it's not a regression for like even that younger. They didn't have a chance to even know what that was like, right? So that's just wild to me. Yeah, that's interesting.
From the kids that are even behind us, that are learning from, like you're saying, like who didn't have that steep or that kind of drop off, I guess, from our perspective, didn't even have a chance to even learn or even develop that.
In the most pivotal years. Yeah, that's a really good point. As you were talking, I immediately thought about my niece who's 15. And she's kind of very similar, like very to herself. It's kind of hard to get information out of her, hear how she's feeling, how her day went. And I think the same thing, like her, the back half of her middle school years were completely taken over by COVID. So she, didn't really have the chance to, socially interact probably as much as she would have, or develop as much as she would have had, that
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And then we talked about that hybrid thing now, like at work, the hybrid thing. And I always hear people talk about like, oh, I want to work from home and how much I love working from home. I'm like, I need hybrid. I need, like, I like my days where I'm able to like lock in by myself or whatever, maybe at home. But then there's absolutely times where I need to be around other people. I don't need to stay at home because I'm already a procrastinator as it is. So if I stay at home, Lord only knows when things are going to get done. I need that social interaction to kind of lift me out of my funk because I can get in my head so much. So I need to be around other people. Yeah. So I don't want to be like full-time work at home. I'm looking at people like, that would not work for all of us. And I'm definitely one of those people that would not work for.
And that's a very interesting point across the board, because it is now in your generation, Chris and Krista, that hybrid working scenarios are almost a right because of what we have gone through, impacted by the pandemic, right? So what I would like to kind of pivot to a little bit when we talk about how the laws had to change to make things more resilient. Krista, I know you said that we became more resilient, but what changed for you as far as now pursuing a career because now you were socially impacted? Hybrid is a thing. It is more of a demand on society to have this work-life balance, and what is reflected is my ability to be able to work from home is required now from, I would say, people in your age. Like, so what is it like now trying to look for jobs for people in, that you've gone to school with, and setting those bars of demanding working from home, or, all of that? What's that like now for you guys?
Well, that concept is a little new for me, to be honest, because my jobs that I've been a part of, I've been in just the workplace every single day. So with my job, now working at the company that I'm at now, it is a hybrid setting. So it is new for me to have my laptop and sit here for a couple of days out the week and just be on a computer by myself. Because most of the time I'm having to interact with people. But I enjoy that, though, to be honest. Like I enjoy that just every day going in and having conversations with people. I think that's really where you get to know and learn your team or whoever you're involved with or whoever you work with, to be able to learn those different kind of maybe keys to be able to make them work harder. Maybe you work harder, like just working in a different dynamic. I think it creates that more of a personal relationship with the person and intentionality as well with who you're speaking to and how you show up as well. That's also being responsible in that aspect too. Yeah. But I it's new for me. Like I'm still, to be honest with you, like it's just a new concept for me to even get comfortable with it now. But for you, I know it's been something that you've been already a part of doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do think, like, for the most part, our generation kind of views having the opportunity or the ability to work from home or completely remote as sort of like this is a must that I must have a part of this job. And I'm not taking it unless I do have it. And I think it's really interesting because I do hear, like, especially being, young in my career in corporate, I do hear a lot of my peers who are also young in their careers working in this hybrid environment, that they actually sort of prefer sometimes to be work from home, work from home because they're more focused on what they're getting done at home, which is interesting because you would think being in the office, you're in a work environment, it's because it's in your face, you would think that you would maybe be at your desk more, actually getting tasks done. But in reality, I think my generation sort of looks at being in the workplace as an opportunity to sort of network more, connect more, build relationships more. You're kind of walking around with people, you're up from your desk, like talking to people. And when you're at home, you're sort of, you have that time where you're cut off and like you're able to completely focus on what you need to get done. And I've heard a lot of times that they can't get up from their desk because honestly, and I think that goes back to work-life balance, like, making that boundary for yourself, especially being work from home, knowing when to step away. But I do think that, just in general, our generation has shown and is trying to promote that you can still be productive working from home. And I think COVID showed that we can still get the job done, even though I'm not physically in the space with you. And I think that's now.
And that leads me to a question that I want to kind of like bring up. I would almost debate with anyone or let anybody jump in. Do you not think that the work from home also feeds the social regression? Because those people who would feel more comfortable in their isolation and not being around other people, not being challenged, not having to deal with competition, that it's also kind of damaging us in a way because it's not forcing us to go out and make those connections and network and learn more and challenge ourselves to come out of those eggs or those shells that we're in. Would you not think that there's also that impact as well?
I do see where you're coming from, and I think that's a really good perspective. I could see how, on one hand, someone could look at, and I don't know, you jump in too, because I do feel like I've heard in our generation more so that, I'm at work to get my work done, not here to necessarily be social or create these like long lasting relationships. So I do think sometimes those people who have the perspective where, I can get all my work done here, I don't need to go in the office at all. Yes, there is, I think, a layer of regression in that socially, but just in the workspace. And I think if they were still having that social interaction outside of work, that they could argue that point that like, well, at least I'm still building those connections outside of work because work isn't technically my life, if that makes sense.
That does.
Yeah.
This is such a generationally significant conversation, and I've been sitting here just kind of processing the nuances of our responses. And my generation, like, we didn't have a choice. You had to go in. Like, there was no you get to be hybrid. You went to the office. That was the right you had. You could keep your job and you come to the office, or you don't work here. And as a direct result of COVID, it created a situation where we needed to evolve how we thought about what our perspective was concerning work, concerning relationships. I don't know about you, E and Johnny, but I don't necessarily remember a time where, let me say it different.
Okay.
People would say, I have a professional life and I have a personal life. And I would be very restricted on how much of my personal I would share with you in my professional. So what I was doing while I was at the office was I was working towards my professional end. And I think COVID created this illuminated discussion that there is a void in the workplace, and I wasn't able to bring my person. I only brought my professional. So it was all about networking for the express purpose of getting somewhere with my career. Now, much of what is being talked about is not networking for my career, but it's I need some relationships that can help me move and evolve my life. And many times, what I think I hear the generations talking about why we have to be together is so that we can build human connection. You don't have to do that in the office. You don't have to do that at work. Like, there is something nuanced and real about how this technology that's now in front of us allows us to connect in a much more nuanced way. And you intentionally, especially if I'm in an office, I don't like going into an office because I don't actually get work done. I may get relational things done, but most of the time, where am I at? In the same place that I am right now. I am across from a person who may be sitting next to me on a video screen. So you cannot tell me that the nuances of the relationship I'm building in a human way are growing in the way that they need to, because, Krista, they're still sitting at the desk, getting all the work done, having relational connection with someone across from a video screen. So what we're doing is that we're forcing people to come back together, hoping that the humanity makes a human connection, when in truth, we haven't actually adjusted our perspective on what we really are looking for and what we really do want when we are in a situation like work where humans are with each other. So what do? We order pizza, and we have social events that we ask you to come to, that if I don't have a relationship with you, Johnny, I'm not coming to your pizza party. I'm not driving to your happy hour. But I might say hi to you when you're sitting next to me, but it doesn't mean that I have to. And I don't know that that is a result of COVID. I think that is a result of people who are now in a situation where they learned how to evolve and bring both of themselves, or their full self, or their best self, or their authentic self to a place that was never designed to help you do that. And now that you're having to figure out how then do I stay safe, bringing my human into a place that is requiring me to get work done. So I soapbox that because I felt that in my shana. Like we are evolving as a people, and the things that we have to use to help make sure that the relationships that we are building aren't just for the purposes of making sure that my network is strong so I get a promotion, but it is like, no, I'm sharing life with you. Thank you, being married. Like I'm sharing life with you, and I'm sharing it with you in a way that in the past we didn't do. And I want to have a generationally honest conversation. We didn't do that back then. And now this disconnect or this struggle with now I'm having to do that in a place where I historically didn't. And now I've got to figure out how to maneuver through it. So I don't know how y'all feel about that, but it's a thing that in my head as I'm watching people maneuver, I'm like, we need to be more honest about what this is and what this isn't.
I'd agree with that though, CT. I definitely think that, originally work was work, home was home. And,
Right.
You had to have that distinction because you didn't want the things that you did at home to affect the things that you did at work. But then now we live in a time where what you do at work is reflected by the things you choose to do at home. And people are like, well, what do you do outside of this place? That way that we can look at you from this perspective. Are you philanthropic? Are you altruistic? Like, what are your goals in life? Are you married? Like, people feel like the only way that they can see you in a better light is to know all those intimate details about you. But that doesn't really tell them anything about your skills or, how you present yourself at work. But I just feel like it's now. I think it's kind of funny. It's like human resources finally caught up to the idea like they were human resources that they were using. And it's like, oh my gosh, this whole time you guys have been human. We should ask how you're doing. How you doing? Yeah, we want to know. Yeah, we kind of want to know. I mean, but we don't want to know too much. Don't tell too many people though. Not too many, because then too many people know, but you can disclose if you want, or you can ID, or you can cut, it's kind of like this weird kind of like, it's almost like a weird dating thing where it's like, I like you, but I don't want you to know I like you, but I only want you to tell me things about you that you're comfortable about telling me, but I don't want you to feel uncomfortable to tell me stuff, but I also want you to know you can create uncomfortability by telling me things at the same time. It's like, so what the heck?
Yeah. But I think it's important that we do, and I think it's so cool that we're having this conversation as we're talking about rights.
Yeah.
Right. Because one of the reasons why we have to have those conversations at work of getting to see your humanity. What do you like to do outside of work? What are what movies are you watching? What are you interested in? What are your kids up to? So that we can see them as humans, because everyone has not been afforded the same rights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
The same rights, the same opportunities. And a lot of this is because of what I see from the outside. So if I get to know you, E, the person, and they get to understand like what a nerd E is, and I mean that in the most respectful way, right? Because we honor nerds here on this podcast.
Right.
He is, how much he loves cooking. Yeah, all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, now I see you as the human and not necessarily what I just see from the outside. So I think it's cool that we are having this conversation while we're talking about rights, because you're right, E, it does get a little awkward sometimes. Like the things that people share, you're like, oh, okay, we're doing this. We're doing this now. Right? You're right. When I started in the workforce, it was very separate, but now we're evolving. But there is a purpose behind it, I think, too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And I like to shock people with things that aren't true about me. You already know how I am. Like, people like, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I went hunting. It's like, you went hunting? You actually go hunting? Yes, that's right. I do these non-urban things. I just got to throw it out there. I do these non-urban things, like I go hunting for unicorns, and I wear a leopard skin jacket the whole time. I just make up funny stuff. And they be like, "You really did that?" I'd be like, "Yeah." I mean, if you just want to know what people do, like I make up the wildest things and let you go live your life thinking like he really told me he did that. I don't think he really did it. Well, whether you know whether I did or I didn't, it doesn't matter. I'm glad that you got a little entertainment out of it, wondering what I'm doing. That's it. You're wondering. I'm gonna leave you with wonderment. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm super interested CT, I'm sure you have another question, but before, I don't even know if this is a specific question that I'm asking, but I really want to know from Chris and Krista, like talking about rights, and generation. I just kind of want to understand like you all's point of view, because I think it's often like said that younger generations may not care as much as older generations because of how we have advanced, just within our country, even though there's still definitely things we should be fighting for. So when you all think about that conversation, like, I don't know, what do you see that is worth fighting for? Do you believe that like younger generations may not care as much, and just all of that? Like, what are your viewpoints when it comes to just rights in general?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. I would say, because we were having this conversation a little bit earlier, about the concept of just the right of something, and then also to your earlier episodes talking about like what is right, really, like from a certain perspective. If we're talking about leaving from the marriage conversation, like what is right, what are you learning, it's no real right answer. It's just flowing through whatever flow you're going through at the time. But I do think that social media gives a different right, at least in our generation, from perspective of what people, I guess, have the right to say, right? I think the platform and the ability to speak to what you have a right or what you've learned from someone else, because that's also what you all have talked about as well too, is like the perspective of where you learn that idea from came from somewhere. So you have a right or a certain perspective or a certain truth to that, and supporting that, and then also just defending that at certain times. But right, it's funny, right? So like we were really having that concept, like rights. What is like rights? I guess
I know. I know.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Because I don't know if I would say that it's not that the younger generation just doesn't care as much about our rights, but I do think that we're maybe not as solid or as like concrete in like what our rights actually are. And to Chris's point around social media, I do think that there's just this huge wave of influence and influencers, people that are calling themselves influencers that honestly, I believe influence a lot of the public or the wider opinion in our generation and perception around what our rights are and like how we should be exercising them, whether this influencer is speaking something, wrong or right. Well, I guess what you would consider to be wrong or right, but be right to them. But yeah, I do think that it kind of changes with the wind, if I'm being honest, our generation and like how we view our rights. I don't think that we're very concrete, if I'm being honest. And that's just like trying to be like not biased when I'm thinking about like our generation from like a wider perspective. I do think that, we're just not as concrete or firm in like what we believe our rights actually are. And I think they're heavily influenced by what's put out by social media.
The knowledge too. Is going through to your point too, is social media. A lot of people use social media as their calling card. Because I saw this on here and it has to be true. Yeah. Like that's not, I don't necessarily that, hey, if somebody has a perspective, that's cool. We don't necessarily agree with that perspective, I guess, in that way.
You have the right to be right. And that might be wrong. And the thing to think that I love about this conversation is that this idea that there was a time where someone had to decide what was right. Yeah. Now, for us, we determined what was right through something more biblical and religious and spiritual. We defined our rights through the lens of morality. We didn't define our rights through the lens of the Constitution. We defined our rights through what did we believe, and based upon what we believed, determined how we defined what was right and what was wrong. Love your neighbor as yourself. Is that right? Some people may not think it is, but based upon the belief system, Eric, it almost goes back to like episode 1 when you were talking about beliefs, right? When this idea that, well, what if I believe something different than what you believe? Well, you have the right to believe what you want. I don't believe you have the right to try to make somebody else believe what you believe.
That's right.
And if you are forcing someone to believe what you believe, I don't think that's right.
Right.
I agree.
See, you see how she finished? Like, remember that the first episode 1, like we finished everything you finished was like, yep, you're right. You're validating. Right. Thank you, sister.
Right.
Just for a second.
This is good.
Right.
E, you have Johnny. Other.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was just saying with E because I wanted to make a comment on your Thanos comment. I think from the comic perspective, he's a bad guy. But from the movie Marvel perspective, yeah, it could go right. What's right or wrong? I just wanted to throw that out too.
I definitely. That's the reason why I made sure I said a movie because comic book. Yeah, you were 100% right. Now that dude was a mad titan in the comic book. He was Lady Death. I love you. Yeah, I love you. I'm gonna destroy the whole universe for you. I swear. I just want you to love me. And she did not love him. It don't matter. Yeah, that was a simp move. So comic book Thanos is a simp. MCU Thanos, yeah, you a pimp. No. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I would definitely love to have you guys back to talk about other stuff whenever you guys are available. This has been great.
Yes, please.
This has been great.
Sure.
All right, so I mean, we're going into our round robin. You already know what it is. CT, I gotta ask, like, from a generational conversation to get the perspective, we got to go a generation above us now, because I know I'm not in your generation, because I'm gonna keep that true. Yeah, I'm not in your generation. I don't care what you say. Okay, I know how that works. I know how they cut the generations. Okay, I'm not in your generation, but there's somebody who's not in your generation too, whose perspective we would like to get, because I would like to know what would Grandma do.
I like that tie-in. See what you did there.
Yeah, I saw what you did there, and I'm not. We'll let it go for now. We may come back to it.
Oh no, that's a younger generation. Let it go is a younger generation. We ain't there.
We may in another generation come back to it. So, as Grandma would say in season 3, sit up in your chair and listen up. Grandma would say that this week she wants to take the perspective that says, when she was in her generation, there was something that she wanted the next to do. And then the next generation, and then the next generation, and the next generation. And as we think about how we evolve, I'd like to amplify the word next. And Grandma would say that in this generational perspective that she had, the best way to think about what happens next is that you have to remember that in every generation, the end means you must navigate. You must navigate the terrain of change and navigate the differences that you find in people and others, in the things that you learn. If you're not navigating through those societal changes, whether it be technology, whether it be something that may be happening negative in the environment, if you're not adjusting, then you might find that you may be navigating to the wrong place. Grandma would say when she was coming up, she had a paper to help her navigate. Today, we have Waze. We have Google Maps. And how I navigate today is with a little bit of help. And Grandma would say that if you want to get to navigate well, you've got to get the E right. And the E is there are emerging technologies that help us inform how we get to where we're going to get to. So you've got to emerge in a way or immerse yourself in a way that gives you permission to know that what you know right now isn't enough. And if you think what you know today is enough, then you're going to be left behind, and then you won't be able to navigate the way you need to. Because when I use the navigation, Johnny, what I find is that they continue to update that navigation. And if I've not immersed myself in the thing that is necessary and needed to help me navigate, then I can't do the next E right. Now, here's what's funny. It's not an E, but it is an X. But I'm going to give you a word that starts with an E, but it sounds like an X. And that is, you've got to adjust your expectation. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wakanda forever. You've got to be able to adjust your expectation. And if your expectation isn't right, then you cannot immerse yourself in the things that will allow you to navigate. So your expectation must be that every day that I wake up with the idea and concept of curiosity being at the top of my mind, saying I must learn something new about someone. I must learn something new about something. I must learn something new about some place. Ladies and gentlemen, the expectation is that you lean into the noun. You've got to find the person, place, or thing that is different than who you are. Immerse yourself in that so you can navigate in a world that's consistently changing. Why do I want to do that? Grandma would say you'd want to do that and do that in next so that the T happens the right way. And the word T is together. If I can't do this together, that means I'm on my own. On my own. And that's not a comfortable place to be. We talked about in our pod today that some people have digressed in their way to socially connect with each other. And I would tell you that if you have a clear expectation that you're going to learn something new because you've immersed yourself in knowing someone else, then it doesn't just become together, it becomes better together. And when we are better together, we can get to the next thing together. And when we get to the next thing together, we all are going to be generationally significant, knowing that your perspective and my perspective are okay because we're in it together. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you.
Thank you, Grandma.
Let's go.
All right, thank you, Grandma. I definitely appreciate that. She ain't playing. Grandma said, "What's next?" Okay, I'm with it. Because you already know what's next. Johnny, what you got?
It's the record scratch. It's the record scratch. The record scratch actually never gets old for me. I enjoy it every time. Okay, so we're talking about generations and all those things, and you know that I've been on this whole thing about voting and our rights to vote. So I'm going to slightly pivot a little bit, just slightly. But I read something, can't remember what it was. Y'all know I can never remember. Read something that said that around 35 and under, so maybe 18 to 35, they are not as interested in voting. They are not involved in the voting process. It's just not a huge, which I don't personally believe, but I just thought it was important to kind of like bring that up a little bit, because as we're talking about these generations and the younger generations, we can't count them out, right? Right. There's all these myths about them being unmotivated because they're so privileged and so entitled. But I just want us to remember like the significance of some of younger people. I know it's generations, different generations, but it's still a younger age that we're talking about. So Martin Luther King Jr. was only 34 years old when he marched on Washington. Like Muhammad Ali was 25 years old when he refused to be drafted. Frederick Douglass was only 20 years old when he escaped slavery. Huey P. Newton was 25 when he started the Black Panther Party. Gloria Steinem was 22 years old when she wrote her first article, or this famous article that kind of shined a light on the on how women were being treated. Billie Holiday was 23 when she sang Strange Fruit, that kind of enlightened people to what was happening in the South around lynching. We cannot count out young people. No. So absolutely, I don't believe that they are just completely unmotivated and they privileged and they don't care about this process. I know that there are people that are. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to that generation. And also, if you know anyone in that generation, maybe you all are on this podcast, whatever, like empower them, make sure that they know that their vote counts and they absolutely matter in this whole entire process, because I believe that our democracy is at stake, and we need to make sure that we all have a voice and that we're standing up. So shout out to all the younger generations who are able to vote. And those who can't vote still have a say.
Gems.
All right.
Dropped gems. That was fire.
Right.
Johnny.
Thank
Johnny
you.
got gems. All right. I'm with it. Okay. Yep. Nope. Nope. So your message from your AOC is again about these wrongs. Because you know, we do a lot of wrong. I mean, we just do. You know what I'm saying? Like I when I think about rights, And then I think about how we abuse them, and I think about how we misuse them, and I think about how we confuse them. I think about how we make dumb mistakes and we mess around and lose them, because they are some things that you cannot do when you have been institutionalized, right? So we go through all of these things in life where we don't know what's right and we don't know what's wrong. But I think we delve into the moral compass, right? And how you were raised. And there's this question I've asked a lot of people. If a baby grows up without ever being shown love, would the baby know how to show love and what love is, right? So I would pose that same question to say, if nobody ever told you were wrong and everything you've ever done has always been treated like it's right, would you ever really know what wrong is? Most likely not. So for all of those people out there who 99% of the time are right, you're wrong. I'm here to tell you you're wrong, okay? Because you can't always be right. There's those times where you got to be wrong so you can get better and grow from the things that you didn't know. So that's it. That's all I got. Your message from your AOC is you 99% are out there thinking that you 100% right. You wrong. Okay, you wrong on this one. Okay, even if you've been 100% right all the time, you're wrong on this one, because you can't grow if you're always right. You know what I mean? All right. So,
okay, AOC.
Yes, E, come on. We had that conversation earlier this week, E, or
you already
last
know.
week. Like, yeah, sometimes you're wrong, and it's okay. Like, you need to know when you're wrong.
Yeah. I accept my wrongs because I be doing them on purpose sometimes. Hey, you gotta own them things. Like I do. Like knocking stuff out of people's hands is wrong, but it feels right. So okay, we're gonna go around for final thoughts.
That's wrong. Anyway.
Yeah, Mayhem. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, I
welcome,
know.
Mayhem. Yeah, Mayhem. Yeah. So we're gonna go around for final thoughts, and I would love to come to our guests to get their final thoughts. Yes. Thank you so much for this conversation. You guys know that we'll be welcoming you back. So final thoughts on these generational perspectives. Anything you want to leave with our audience?
Yeah, well, one, thank you guys so much for the time and for the conversation as well. We would love to come back. This has been amazing and so informative. But we actually wanted to close with a question. We had a question for you guys. So as representatives from the older generation and, looking at our generation, when it comes to exercising our rights, where are we doing things right in you guys' opinion? Like what's going well? And then where do we need to lock in a little bit more to, maybe like improve the way we're approaching, exercising the rights that we think we have.
I want to jump on that first. The thing that y'all 100% got every generation beat with is information sharing. Yeah. You guys have the ability to share your thoughts, your feelings, your information so fast, and to coalesce your militias whenever you need to, or your comrades whenever you need to, at a whim, to the point to where you could put a post out right now and say, hey, I need to move a couch, and at some point you may get 30 people like, I know somebody Junebug, something like there's gonna be 30 people like, comment, or whatever. That just shows you that the power of communication and information sharing that your generation has at its disposal, and how fast you guys share it. Because listen, the guy that's being reviewed right now by the people who's wondering what he done did with the lotion, like look how fast y'all that information got around, man. Like everybody got that real quick. It's like, look, we was talking about that in seconds. In our time, it would be weeks before we would find out some of those things. It'd be months. If you didn't read a newspaper or you really weren't in the know, you wouldn't find out this stuff, or you wouldn't be able to share information as easy so that you could tell people who to vote for, how to vote, where to vote. Like you guys got QR codes that tell you where to go the day of.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are doing that right.
Yeah. I would say I would completely agree with that, E. And also too, I think there is this boldness that comes from the younger generation that maybe some of us did not have, because about tradition and just following along with the path, because that's what we were taught and we're just going to go with the flow. Like I think the younger generation is exposed to so much, and because they have access to so much information, they can see some things ain't right. This is not right, and we have, back to that right and wrong, right? But I remember my oldest daughter saying to me, like, Mom, I cannot wait till we have the right to vote, my generation, because y'all have screwed it up. Like, I don't know what y'all have done, but y'all have screwed it up. And I can't wait till we have a voice in all of this. And I love that, because you have so much access to so much information. You could take a step back and say, wow, this world is such a bigger place. And y'all had a different perspective on it because you were more sheltered and closed in. So having access to that information makes you more confident and bold. And I love that. I think that's so cool.
That is such a rich question.
It is.
I think that Johnny and E are correct. The thing that I may amplify would be that if you don't know your history, you are bound to repeat it.
Yes.
And so if you're not doing the right research, you will rewrite something that has already been written. And so if there is something generationally that your generation, if there's something that your generation could do because of all the access that it has, because of its ability to galvanize and be able to pull people together quickly for something, it is, Johnny, thank you for the pause. Like, it's the pause to say, all right, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? Ecclesiastes chapter 3, right? There's nothing new under the sun. So even though it's nothing new under the sun, there is a way that we could do this that does bring us together, rather than separate us. I think I did something recently that said, the best leaders do more addition and multiplication and less subtraction and division. And oftentimes you're, because of how you all can galvanize quickly, if you do more of the subtraction and division, you actually create a pathway where we are repeating history rather than evolving and becoming closer and making more right available for others. And so I think your generation very much is in a position to be able to say, wait a minute, we don't have to change a bunch of stuff, but we can make right what has been made wrong through our ability to say, wait a minute, here's how we got here. And let's not ignore, we got here because these things were happening. And when we see these things happening, we can call it out and we can acknowledge that that's not the right thing for us to do from a human perspective first. And then we can figure out how to maneuver civil things and how to maneuver like all the other things that exist within the context of our society. That's how I would think about your question. Fantastic question.
I completely agree. And I just wanted to add on that because you asked about what to lock in on. That's exactly right. Like, don't take for granted what we have now, the work that was done by previous generations to give us the rights that we currently have. Let's not take that for granted, because in a moment's notice, it can be taken away from us just like that. So like, let's lock in and like be aware of where we've come from, because just like CT said, we can head right back there if we're not careful. So we have to really be careful with that.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Thank y'all for sharing y'all having us on the show for sure. We definitely want to come back, and whatever other topics on the show we'll be open to answer.
Let's have it back.
All right. Be careful what you wish for. So I would definitely have you on some of the crazy episodes that I choose to talk about. Crazy. What do we sign up for? And it's like, yes, we're gonna talk. Yeah, no. So I love that. I love using that. I love using that question as the thing that provocated our final thought. So thank you very much for setting us up. Thank you guys again. We'll definitely have to have you guys back on. Thank you, CT. Thank you, Johnny, my liege, for always showing up and doing the best that we can, because we are the best crew that make it do what it do. If you are tuning in, you may be just listening to the voice. Now, this is your choice. You are here with the EMM crew. We are always here to motivate you. We are motivation. We are that thing that created you to get up and go do what you did on Tuesday, because we was there on Monday. That's right. Now, you can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on YouTube, TikTok, all of the fun places that you're getting your streaming. Now, make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment on the episodes. That way we can pay attention to you and get back to you. If you got any questions, make sure you shoot out to us. If you want to be on the show, you can always inbox us as well. Now, with all that said, I'm just going to go ahead and do my little fun tag so you can just chill until the next episode. Peace. Everybody
Peace.
have a good night.
Thanks, Chris and Krista. Love you guys so much.
Guys,
Thank you.
love you.
Very
Yes.
much.